So, you're thinking of buying a new BMW R1250RT? These are some of my thoughts after 3 months of ownership. Here we go. Good morning, YouTube. Lovely Sunday morning. We're out for a ride. Give you a few thoughts on the new RT. It's 21 degrees. Wind is relatively light. Nice riding weather. We're going to take a little ride around part of Kent, East Kent, and on the way we'll give you a few thoughts on the new RT. Overriding thing is I love it. Having some minor issues with the cancel, having a few minor issues with the connected app and sat nav, but they're things that we can fairly easily put right. It's just a bit of a pain that we have to keep doing it. Hopefully when BMW install the latest TFT software, that will improve. But that said, when the nav is working, it works well, and it is working most of the time. So we're just passing out through Margate. Just passing the Cliftonville Lido on our right there. We're going to ride down along the seafront, out onto the Thanet Way. Short little ride along the M2, turn off at Ashford, pick up the A20 at Ashford, down towards Folkestone, Sellinge, through the Olcombe Valley, then back home on a country route through Shepherd's Well, Elvington, Aythorne, that way on. It is a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit along here, which people are adhering to. Some are being a little bit overzealous with it. You can see on the RT we've got it in split screen at the moment, with our sort of rev counter, speedo, riding information on the left and the sat nav on the right. We can have either of those in full screen if we want, but I kind of like it as it is. Got a range of 207 miles. We're averaging something like, I think it's 55.3 miles to the gallon. I don't know if you can hear the sat nav voice commands in the background. It's one of the things that I occasionally have issues with. The sat nav starts up, but we don't get voice commands until we've done a little bit of fiddling around. We've got quick shifter on the RT, up and down. I tend not to use it first to second, but it's relatively smooth through the rest of the gearbox, very smooth all the way down. do have a lot of tech on this bike. One of the things I find really very helpful is the hill hold assist. It can be set in two modes, automatic and manual. On automatic, the brakes will automatically apply when you're on an incline of 3 degrees or more, but in manual you can apply it with a sharp pull on the brake lever, and I find that very, very helpful. Allows me to stop with both feet on the ground rather than one foot on the foot brake. I really like that. And of course we have the active cruise control, which I hopefully will be able to give you a demonstration of it a little bit later when we get out onto the faster roads. Got a number of riding modes: eco, rain, road and dynamic. Various modes affect the fuel mapping, throttle response and the ABS and suspension settings. Got it in dynamic at the moment, which firms up the suspension a little bit, quite a little bit. It's very, very nice ride in dynamic, and we get very, very good throttle response. The throttle response is pretty good in rain, in dynamic and road. It does dumb down a little bit in rain and dumbs down a lot in eco. I have tried eco, but I tend not to use it. I've used rain, but I think road and dynamic will be the main useful riding modes. So what have we done now? We've had the bike all but 3 months, and we've done 2,519 miles. And I say my overall impression is extremely good. Handles really nicely for such a big weighty bike. I really don't have any problems moving it around. I hear people saying it's a big heavy beast to wheel around, but I've not found it too bad. I can paddle it around in most situations, parking situations. And of course, once you're on the move, that weight just disappears anyway. Come on, get over. Screen, very adjustable, electrically. Little switch over here. I've got it set so that I can see over the top of it, and the wind protection is very, very good. So it's a warm day. I've got a little bit of breeze on my face. It's not a buffety sort of breeze. It's very comfortable. In the highest position, I actually look through the screen. I haven't tried that in the rain, but I don't imagine that will work terribly well in the rain, looking through the screen. As the position is in the moment, fine, absolutely fine. And my body is very well protected from the wind. I've ridden in the rain, my legs haven't got wet at all. The fairing does a great job. So we're at 40 mile an hour in 4th gear, and we're doing just over 2,500 RPM. And the throttle response to torque from these speeds is very good. So this is Birchington. Can you hear the church bells? We did a short tour of the Peak District a couple of weeks ago. The bike performed superbly. The weather up there wasn't great. Rode 3 of the passes up there and the weather was pretty dire. The bike performed faultlessly. It's got the Michelin Road 5 tyres on it, which I had on my Triumph Tiger 800. I think they're superb tyres. We'll wait and see how long they last on this, but I could comfortably get 10k out of them on the Triumph. This is a very, very comfortable place to be. I think BMW need to catch up with Triumph and get these switches backlit so that you can see them in the dark. That's an area for improvement. Obviously they've got the software issues with the sat nav to improve. When I first started using the bike, I was finding the side stand a little bit awkward to find, but now I know where it is. That's not a problem. Mirrors, I think, are superb. The rear view is spot on. Riding position, I've only got short legs, so I've got a low seat on here, and my legs are very comfortable. I know a lot of people complain that the legs are in a rather sporty position on the RT, but with my short legs it's very comfortable. I'm just going to concentrate on this roundabout now. So we're now out onto the Thanet Way proper. Don't know if you can hear the quick shifter working there. Works very well. Put the cruise control on, we set it 76 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour, and we've got it in active mode, so if I approach a vehicle in front going slower than me, the bike will automatically slow down. If that vehicle speeds up, we'll automatically speed up. Now, I have got my helmet visor open, sun visor down, so the wind noise might be a little bit more than you would expect. Dumbs it down a little bit when I close the visor. Like I say, we're cruising 75 miles an hour in 6th. And we're doing 4,000 revs. It red lines at 9. It will go. It will go if you need it to, and if you're in a position where you can use it. Got another tour planned for about a month's time, beginning of October. We're going down to Wales, South and Mid Wales this time. We did North Wales, Snowdonia a couple of years ago, a year before COVID. And in a month's time we're going down to do Mid in South Wales. Only a short tour, but I'm sure the RT will cope with it admirably. And then next spring, end of April, we're going to Ireland to ride the Wild Atlantic Way. And once again, I'm sure the RT will cope with it admirably. smell of the country out here. Smell the dung. Now we're slowing down because the car in front is going slower than us. See, we're slowing down with no input from me. I'm going to stick with that. And I'll pull out when this vehicle's past me. I'll pull out and we automatically speed up. No input from me. That's the active cruise control in operation. And you can vary the distance with this button here, at which allows you to get closer to vehicles in front or to step back a little bit further if you want. That's the maximum distance now. I will get to a vehicle on maximum. Very clever tech, very useful. Radar built into the front of the bike, sends out a signal, detects vehicles in front and their speed. Very clever tech, and I have to say I find it very useful, especially on some of the long motorway hauls we've done. Now we can have media playing as well. Except that we haven't got the media loaded on the phone at the moment. But it does work, and the music will mute when you get a sat-nav command, and you'll come back again once the sat-nav command is complete. So you do always have sat-nav commands. I know with some of the headsets and the separate navigation devices you lose your sat-nav commands altogether if you've got media playing. That isn't the case with this. The media will always mute and allow the sat-nav command, and then unmute when the command is complete. Great bit of stuff. Now we're slowing down with no input from me. I'll pull out, we'll accelerate again. No input from me. It doesn't react as quickly as I would with the throttle, but nonetheless it works very effectively. I guess the next thing is electrically adjustable mirrors like you get on the car. It is a little bit of a stretch forward if I want to adjust them. But I guess it's fine as it is. You have to draw the line somewhere, don't you? Nice crisp response there from the throttle just to pass that vehicle. Visor down. Hello. And this, you could ride like this all day. You could ride like this another 20 or 30 mile an hour faster comfortably all day. Nav automatically dims when you go into darkness. When you come back out into the daylight, it illuminates again. You can turn that either way, have it permanently dimmed, permanently lit, or as I have it, on automatic. Now, the Missenden Flyer did a review on this recently, and he cocked up. He talked about a faff to get into the heating menu for the heated grips and the heated seats. He used a button on the handlebar for many button presses. One button press. Grip heating, seat heating. A long press on the top of the menu button returns our normal dash. Hello again. Just before we summarise our thoughts on the BMW R1250RT, I just thought I'd show you around mine and show you a few of the mods I've made on it. There's not many, so I'll show you what I've done and I'll tell you what I'm planning on maybe doing, and then I'll summarise my thoughts on as an owner of a BMW R1250RT. So there she is. It's a very bright late summer evening, so I've got to be careful where I point the camera, but this is my RT. What have I done to it? Well, not a great deal. You can see maybe we've got the Wunderlich engine protection bars on. Just offer a bit of protection and a low speed drop. We've got a Optimate lead fitted so we can keep the battery primed up. Now I don't know whether the camera is going to actually show this up, but we've got some protection film on the panniers. You can see where I throw my leg over here. I very often catch the pannier, and without that protection film on there we'd be damaging the paintwork, so it's doing a very good job at the moment. What else have we got? Well, we've got a very understated tank pad. Seen some pretty blingy ones on eBay, but don't take my fancy at all, so we've gone for that nice understated carbon look. We've obviously got our Jivvy tank lock for the tank bag. And the only other thing I think of is we changed the number plate to a slightly blingy one for when we go abroad. We've got our UK and the BMW Make Life a Ride motto. And that's about all we've done really. What are we planning on doing? Well, we've got a couple of things in mind maybe. One might be to replace this rear upper brake light surround with a chrome one, which we think would fit in quite nicely with the chrome strips on the pannier and the chrome on the front screen. And probably the only other thing we have in mind, we have got on order some auxiliary lights to mount on the engine protection bars to give us a little bit more visibility, help us to be seen a little bit better. But apart from that, haven't really got anything else planned at the moment, which is pretty good just as she is. So how will I summarise my first 3 months ownership of the RT? Well, I actually think it's a gorgeous bike. At my time of life, at my age, it suits my needs perfectly. It'll do everything I want. It'll go to the shops, it'll scratch around the country lanes, It does my favourite thing, which is touring, absolutely perfectly. Now, over my biking career, which spans some 50 years, I've had broken time with motorcycling for various reasons, families and so on, but I have over that period of time ridden many different bikes, different genres of bikes, sports bikes, adventure bikes. My last bike was a Tiger 800. Other sports tourers, I had a Kawasaki Z1000, but I have to say, of them all, at this moment in my life, at this time, this bike suits my needs perfectly. Now, I don't believe there's any such thing as a perfect bike, but for me, this is as close as anything has got as yet. It's not perfect. It has its faults. Every bike does. But this has so few, and the ones that it has are so irrelevant to me. It's perfect for my needs. So that just about sums it up. Probably sounds a little bit one-sided, but that's because the bike suits me so well. Sure, other people think differently. We're all entitled to our opinions. These have just been my few basic thoughts after 3 months ownership of a new 2021 BMW R1250RT. Catch you again.